Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we look at the highs and the lows of the game week just past. Joining me is Patrick Van Straten, because Joe is still lording it out in LA. He interviewed Justin Bieber. What a time to be alive. Also interviewed a dog. I'm guessing you didn't watch the boxing match?
I didn't.
So let's move swiftly on then. Liverpool are our first winners, and this comes from Anderson Howard. Why is this? Presuming you did watch this one.
I watched most of it. Yeah, Liverpool took a huge step ahead of their title rivals Man City by beating them 3-1 at Anfield on Sunday. That puts them 9 points ahead of City and 8 points above second place Leicester. Second place Leicester.
Come on, you foxes!
My God, who deserves to be there less? Anyway, the game got off to an absolutely unreal start. That was the thing. I turned it on after like 5 minutes and it was already like 1-0 and people were talking about penalties. Fabinho banging in a fantastic strike from outside the box, just his second goal for the club. Their 9th from outside the box in all competitions this season. That's more than any other Premier League side, you will not be surprised to learn. However, there was controversy in the run-up to that goal because Man City, during an attack at the other end, had seen the ball come off. It looked like it came off Bernardo Silva's arm, then it came off Trent Alexander-Arnold's arm, which actually blocked it going to Raheem Sterling, who was unmarked behind him. So they were appealing for a penalty, but VAR thought not and allowed the goal to stand after Liverpool had countered, gone up the other end, and Fabinho had scored. Pep Guardiola was absolutely furious and took his frustration out with the officials at the end of the game in a sarcastic manner.
Oh, there was some wonderful, wonderful clips, wasn't there? You know, where he did the twice up to the heavens.
It was so mental. No, he went
so
twice,
good.
thrice. And I was like, did he say thrice? Like, I couldn't work it out, but I'm pretty certain he did. Anyway, obviously not happy there, but he can't really have any complaints about the second or third goals. Salah's goal for 2-0, absolutely tremendous header from an amazing Robertson cross, and then Mane got a header of his own in the second half. He now has 22 league goals at Anfield since August 2018, more than any other player has scored at a single venue in that time.
MVP.
He did get a bit of help from Claudio Bravo, who has chocolate wrists. Anyway, Bernardo Silva pulled one back with a fantastic strike 12 minutes from the end, but it was too late for City. They've now gone 17 league games at Anfield without a win. Their last win there, 2003. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't think Aguero's scored that yet, has he?
No, he hasn't.
Awful stuff. Anyway, let's delve into some of the numbers, because you'll be unsurprised to learn the away side did edge possession with 55% of the ball, as well as having more shots than at Liverpool on 18-12. Might be a little bit more surprised to learn that XG actually had this game in favour of Manchester City.
I don't think that is surprising.
1.5 to 1.3. I guess given the scoreline, I guess given the whole narrative around Anfield, I guess given Jurgen Klopp's record against Pep Guardiola, it'd be harder to believe, right? But as a student of XG.
Well, you think about the chances that, you know, Aguero missed, then there's the Angelino one that hits the post, then there's the Gabby Jesus one where Sterling squares it rather than shooting himself. Like, they had a lot of shots with feet quite close in. I actually thought that Liverpool can count themselves fairly lucky to only have conceded one in this game, because I thought their defence had a fairly bad game, especially Trent Alexander-Arnold, who got skilled up by Sterling 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, Sterling's just world class, isn't he?
He was
Angelino also looks like a young Mitchell brother. So that's what I have to say about that. Yeah, the Citizens' defence simply could not cope with Liverpool's attack, though. Ultimately, Liverpool actually putting 5 shots on target to City's 3. Klopp was, of course, delighted with the performance, apart from that little tantrum he had on the sideline. We did see our fair share of tantrums during this 90 minutes, didn't we? And this is what he had to say.
We control the game with our intensity, pretty much. We didn't let them do what they wanted. If that would be so easy, I think a lot of more teams would try it. The boys put an incredible shift in that game again. To be constantly brave, to chase them constantly and all that stuff, and then you have to score goals in the right moment, and obviously that's what we did.
Yeah, and he has every right, doesn't he, to be proud of his side's endeavours. Let's do some individual numbers now, because Fabinho, probably the best deep-lying playmaker come defensive midfielder in the league, I would say, right now. 2 shots, 3 tackles and interceptions, and 45 touches. Salah had one of his best games in recent memory, given that he's been struggling for fitness, hasn't he? In the 2 games prior to this, he did come off early. He had 3 shots in this game, 3 dribbles and 7 touches in the opposition's box. They're all game highs, just to give you a little bit of context there. As for City, was some noteworthy performances on the negative end of the spectrum. Kyle Walker dribbled past twice in this game, only completed 75% of his passes, which is heresy in a Pep Guardiola side, isn't it? He'll be in the stockades this morning. That was the lowest in the side. Angelino, the only defender on the pitch who failed to complete a single tackle. And I mean, Zinchenko's not exactly a defensive powerhouse, is he? But when they're controlling the ball, he's a really, really useful outlet. Probably a little bit of an underrated passer / creator on the left-hand side. And his absence was telling. Familiar stories for Sterling and Aguero at Liverpool. Unfortunately, the Englishman failed to hit the target with all 4 of his shots, while Aguero tested Alisson twice in this game, but has now gone 9 games without a goal at Anfield, just to go back to that stat we mentioned before. And it's the fewest points a Guardiola side has accrued in their opening 12 games in a top flight season, a start to the season, let's say. Since he started, I believe. There's no end to this stat on the sheet. But 26 games still to go, with City top of the league for expected points. We expect them still to be chasing Liverpool down in the dying embers of the season. But what do you guys think? Is it beyond City now to reel Liverpool back in? Let us know in the comments below.
Our first losers of the week are Arsenal, unsurprisingly, and this comes from @RohanPeter1234. Take this one away, Hamill.
I think he suggested Leicester, but we're actually inverting it because it's our show and there are rules, okay? But Arsenal defeated 2-0 at the King Power in Unai Emery's 50th game in charge, meaning the club have now accrued 1 point fewer in this period than in Wenger's last 50 games.
I thought the difference would be bigger, to be honest.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. Subsequently, Arsenal have only kept 2 clean sheets in the last 24 away games, which are against Watford and Newcastle. So their on the road woes continue. And listen, I was about 6 Guinness deep when I was watching this. So I didn't even recognise that Arsenal were deploying a new system in this game, but apparently they were. Unai Emery trying a 3-4-1-2 in Xhaka's absence, who he concedes might not play for the club again. Move pending in January. And while this did mean that Arsenal, I suppose, looked a little bit more dangerous on the counter, it didn't really, ostensibly, do anything to combat your soft centre. So the away side conceded 19 shots, only generated 8 in reply. So just to give you a bit more context, that's 5 more than Leicester normally average and 3 more than Arsenal usually concede. In fact, Mesut Ozil making 1 more tackle than Guendouzi and Torreira combined. With all that in mind, Lacazette did miss a hell of a chance, didn't he, after 13 minutes, being set up by Aubameyang. The Frenchman proceeded to have 3 more efforts after this, the only Arsenal player to generate over 1 shot in this game. He only put 1 on target, though, and he didn't have a shot after 34 minutes. I think the only players who carved that opportunities for the visitors in the second half were Bellerin and David Luiz. A little bit harrowing, that. Arsenal are now 8 points behind 4th place Manchester City, but boss Unai Emery insists that things will plateau over the course of the season and trying to get Champions League football remains the objective. Let's hear from him.
We didn't win, it's negative, but we didn't lose, it's positive. And we are in the balance, but really when we are in one team as Arsenal, we need to win more than draw than lose.
Yes, while Unai Emery is having to go out and defend his vision for Arsenal, Leicester seem to be realising Brendan Rodgers. They've won 8 of their last 11 home games in the Premier League. They've actually won their last 4 games in a row. Their best run in the Prem was 5 on the bounce back in 2017 under Craig Shakespeare. They could well equal that in their next game against Brighton away at the Amex. Now, their form against the traditional top 6 have been a bit patchy prior to this. A draw with Chelsea, losses to United and Liverpool, a home victory over Spurs, so a bit up and down that they probably deserved better from that Chelsea game. But 3 points in this match now puts them up to second, 8 behind league leaders Liverpool. After 12 games, they've conceded the fewest goals with 8 and scored the second most goals, 29. That's 1 more than Liverpool. And Understat actually has their defence down as Champions League standard, though it does think the Foxes have scored around 13 more goals than their quality of chance deserves.
Pretty sizable.
I think when you watch them, you can kind of tell that as well. I mean, in this game, like there was the Lacazette chance that got missed, and of course, probably the Ndidi handball could well have been a penalty. The Soyuncu one, when Guendouzi pulled him back, that was clearly a foul, but I think it might not have been given because Soyuncu was offside in the build-up. But I'm still a little bit unclear on that one. Of course, Leicester's numbers have been boosted a lot by that Southampton result. XG of 4.36, but actually 9 goals scored. That's a really big gap. But even if you take that away, still 8 goals ahead of expectation. And Vardy and Maddison, who were good in that match, were again good in this one. James Maddison has scored more goals from outside the box than any other player in the Premier League, with a real pinpoint finish into the bottom corner. Leno had absolutely no chance at all. And Vardy has now scored 9 goals against Arsenal in 10 appearances. Only Rooney with 12, Harry Kane with 10, and Robbie Fowler with 10 have scored more against the Gunners. Now, Ndidi and Pereira pretty much everywhere on the day, though Ndidi I actually thought had quite a poor game by his standards. Like in the first half when Arsenal were managing to get into the box quite easily, and there was that potential penalty call. But Pereira just entirely shut down the Arsenal's left flank. It was really impressive stuff. The two between them put up 11 tackles, 4 in the opposition half. So let's hear from Brendan Rodgers with his thoughts on the match.
Very, very important 3 points. And a great reaction to losing the Liverpool game just before the last international break. After that, we've won every game in this next block, and the players have been absolutely magnificent.
And rounding off all winners, it's the Magpies who are flying high. This comes from Master Contender, and they're making a good fist of it recently, aren't they?
Yeah, one of the form sides in the Premier League. They're better than Arsenal right now. Anyway, managed to beat Bournemouth 2-1 at St James's Park, a second win on the bounce. This is despite going 1 down to a Harry Wilson strike, the on-loan Liverpool winger, bringing his tally for the season to 4 goals, but hit back twice. DeAndre Yedlin met a deflected Alain Saint-Maximin shot to thump home a header, and then Kieran Clark sort of accidentally skilling up Aaron Ramsdale in goal to toe poke one into the corner. Anyway, it's their first back-to-back victories since April, briefly moving them up to 3rd on Saturday, though after Sunday's action, they've dropped 10 places. They're down in 13th with 15 points. That's 7 clear of 18th place Watford. I can't actually... If Newcastle survive relegation this season, it'll genuinely be staggering. I don't know what's going on with them, because they have been utterly toothless up until the last couple of weeks. They had 6 goals in 10 games. I think they had like 5.75 expected goals. Yeah. Horrific.
They've been garbaggio. Yeah.
Like genuinely about half as many expected goals as the next worst side in the league, rather. But now 3 goals away at the Hammers, 2 against Bournemouth. They've almost doubled their tally. At the same time, they haven't really got the return they'd expect out of the £78 million they spent on Joe Linton, Alain Saint-Maximin and Miguel Almiron. Joe Linton obviously only scored in their win away at Tottenham. Almiron is yet to score for the club in 22 league appearances. He's got 2.35 expected goals this season, but obviously hasn't found the net yet. And so it's actually their defenders who are having to chip in, with their back line contributing 7 of their 11 league strikes so far this campaign.
Sounds sustainable.
Absolutely incredible. Before the West Ham game, they'd only twice managed to go past 1 expected goal per game in their 0-0 and 1-1 draws with Brighton and Watford respectively. So, I don't know, they just defy expectations in every single regard, Newcastle. I like Newcastle. In theory, I'd like them to stay up, but they are they've got more boring than they were under Benitez.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually think Watford are better equipped to stay up than them, despite their summer spending spree, which is pretty astounding, isn't it? But like you said, they have turned a bit of a corner of late, which was inconceivable 3 or 4 weeks ago. But now they're showing a bit of attacking intent. After registering a season-high 12 shots in the London Stadium, they followed that up with 20 shots against Bournemouth, their most in a Premier League game since they managed to put together 29 against Huddersfield last year. And if St Maximin and Almiron, like you mentioned, get their act together, life would be a lot easier for Steve Bruce at the helm, wouldn't it? Especially Alain Saint-Maximin, who is undoubtedly their key creator going forward at this point. His 2.4 shots and 2.1 key passes per 90 means he has an expected goal and assist value of 0.43 per 90, which is pretty solid, with this very solid dribbling return of 3.6 completed per 90, making him a bit of a menace for defenders league-wide. Now, with 5th place, amazingly just 2 points beyond Newcastle, who knows how far or how low Steve Bruce's men could go at this point. I still think firm favourites for relegation, despite this little upturn in form. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'd only put Norwich ahead of them in the hunt for relegation.
I concur. What about you guys? Are Newcastle staying up or going down? Let us know in the poll. Just a poll.
Our second and final losers of the week are Norwich. This comes from @BigButcherMan. They are going down.
Yeah, they are butchering their chances of survival for sure, aren't they? Now without a win in 7 Premier League matches following this 2-0 loss to Watford. Delafeu opening the goal scoring after just 76 seconds. That's the Hornets' second fastest goal in Premier League history. He made it as well, didn't he? Tackling the defender in the process. Andre Gray has been a little bit unfortunate in front of goal, getting his second of the season early in the second half to seal the victory, despite Cabasela getting sent off with 25 minutes to go. There were some hairy moments as the game proceeded. Ben Foster making some good saves, but fairly comfortable for Quique Sanchez-Flores' men. The Canaries had 2/3 of possession in this game, completed 88% of their passes, so they were okay in possession, I guess. Watford, conversely, a little bit more pragmatic with just 72% of their passes completed. Norwich also outshot their opponents 17-12, with every outfield starter except Stiepermann having an attempt. But XG tells a different story. Norwich 0.62, Watford 1.36. So despite Norwich throwing the proverbial kitchen sink at it, couldn't really generate a high quality chance. And that is what they were doing in the opening exchanges of the season quite well, weren't they? So if they're not even doing that well now against teams that are at the bottom of the league, then my oh my, are they in trouble. And one of their reliable performances put in a unparticularly? Yeah, let's roll with that. Bad performance. Buendia, earmarked back in August as Daniel Farke's main creative threat. 1 shot off target, no key passes, just 1 of 3 dribbles completed, and only completed around 70% of his passes, also putting an error in leading to a goal. Now, they've got just 7 points, Norwich, after 12 matches. At this rate, they'd end the season with 23 points, which is pretty much rock bottom, isn't it?
I mean, well, Watford is still in with a shout of that as well. But
Come on, Watford.
lest we forget, Crystal Palace in 2017-18, they had 5 points after 12 games, and they managed to stay up. Though their defence did not look historically terrible. So I don't know about Norwich. But as for Watford, this turns around a really horrible run of form. It's their first league win since the 20th of April, which was against Huddersfield, everybody's whipping boy last year. And there were some good performances in the match, actually, especially from the back five, unsurprisingly. Holobas had a great game from left back, 2 key passes, 3 aerial duels won, 4 tackles and an interception. Incredible stuff. In fact, the back five altogether, after they went down to 10 men, remained very, very solid. But overall, the back five, 6 interceptions, 11 tackles, and 24 clearances. Incredible stuff. Ben Foster as well at 36, extending his hold on the PL record for saves, with 5 in this match, pushing him over 1,100. He now has 82 clean sheets in 338 Premier League appearances, averages out to over 9 a season. But man of the match, Gerard Deulofeu, 3 shots and a goal, 1 key pass leading to 1 assist, 5 dribbles, 3 defensive actions, and 2 clearances. So if he can continue this form, which was kind of the form he showed at the beginning of last season, then who knows, maybe they could yet stay up. Up next in the fight against relegation for these 2 clubs, Watford host Burnley, that's a tough game, or Norwich travel to Everton. Bit concerned.
Could be grim.
Who's more likely to stay up, in your opinion, Watford or Norwich? Let us know in the poll right up there.
So that's all we've got time for on this week's winners and losers. Make sure you go and check out ERU on Euro Football Daily around 5 p.m, 6 p.m. Keep you guessing. Anything else, Pat?
Stay tuned for the Sunday Vibes Extra Time podcast, which will be going live this Thursday. It's changed from Sunday to Thursday, so make sure you're around for that. And of course, the name will change from Sunday Vibes Extra Time to just Extra Time. So don't be alarmed if there's a new podcast in your feed.
Bye.